Let's bring in MS Now's Laura Hafley from Greenwich, Connecticut, where gas prices are higher than the national average, as you're seeing there, Laura. So what are Connecticut drivers paying there at the pump, and what are they saying about it?
Well, as you would expect, Connecticut drivers, like a lot of people, are incredibly frustrated. We are just outside of New York. This highway right here actually feeds into New York City. So people have to stop at these gas stations to fill up their tanks. But look at what they're dealing with. $4.69 for regular. And look, wow, I'm just seeing this, Alex. Look at that total, $114 for a gas tank. That is an astronomical number. I have been covering this story for literally months. I've never seen that number before. Drivers are frustrated. This is a big commuter town. They need their vehicles to get into the city. Some are looking to alternative forms of transportation. But one thing is clear, it's not easy for anybody. Take a listen. There's been promises from the Trump administration that they're going to go down. Do you believe them?
No, I don't think so. I feel like it's going to go up. I honestly feel like we might be like at 5 something a gallon soon. And that's crazy. Maybe 4 days ago, I left behind somebody and his was 120. And I said, yeah, I'm not doing that.
As soon as you see over $100, you're out.
I'm just going to get a bike and just go everywhere with a bike because that's it. It's crazy. But yeah, it was 120.
Honestly, I've never done this before, but now every gas station I go to, I start signing up for the rewards just to save the 20%. It's getting to that point where it's like, oh my God, like if I can save at least $3, $4, I mean, that's better than nothing at this point.
Not accountable.
The average for U.S. gas prices 1 month ago, $4.09. Now $4.45 nationally. Don't even get me started on what it was a year ago. In Connecticut, we're above the national average at $4.52 a gallon. This is frustrating, and some people feel like it's never going to end. Alex?
Yep. Okay. Laura, thank you for that. Let's bring in Justin Wolfers, professor of economics and public policy at the University of Michigan. So, Justin, welcome to you. It feels like economic chaos, at least to some degree. You got the rising gas prices, Spirit Airlines failing, an affordability crisis that the public is certainly feeling. What is your assessment?
Mate, it really does feel like chaos. And Alex, I actually looked something up the other day, and it's kind of a really interesting metaphor. You know, they knocked down the east wing of the White House like 4 or 5 months ago now. I think it might even be 6 months ago. It was back in October. And what we have is 2/3 of a White House and a whole lot of rubble next to it. The president moved ahead without any congressional authorization, and what we have is a mess. Now, I don't care that much about a single building. The point is a metaphor, because I think you can take that same approach and think, how did the trade war end up? We still don't know where that's at. There was a year-long trade war, a Supreme Court decision, a temporary continuation, and no one knows what happens next. We went into Iran. We said we'd be there 4 to 5 weeks. We're now there 9 or 10 weeks so far. No end in sight. No talks. A blocked Strait of Hormuz. It feels like chaos because it is chaos.
Look at you from the 30,000-foot elevation looking at all of it. So what about Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, who said today, once the Strait of Hormuz opens, gas prices will come down immediately. Look, we had a guest on yesterday who said, no, prices are not going to get back to normal until 2027. Where do you land on that?
Yeah, so there's actually two separate statements being made, and they're made to sound the same because the White House doesn't quite want you to know what the truth is. Look, the truth is, if the Strait of Hormuz is closed today, in all likelihood, the future is better than the past. Things can only get better from here. That's the sense in which they're right to say gas prices will likely fall. But a different comparison, and the one that actually matters to folks at home, is where will gas prices be relative to where they would have been if we hadn't embarked on this whole Iran adventure? And the truth is that gas prices, we can look at oil futures to figure this out, and oil futures for the end of 26, the end of 2027, the end of 2028, the end of 2029, and on and on and on, are all much higher than they were post-war. So we are pre-war. So we're going to continue to be paying higher energy prices than we otherwise would have as a result of this.
There's a new Washington Post poll showing 34% approval for Donald Trump's handling of the economy. And then there's this headline. Are you worse off financially today? More Americans say yes. So what would have to happen, Justin, to turn that around?
It's usually the case. And Alex, I have spent years talking to journalists saying, look, don't blame the White House. The White House is not all powerful. There's so many things that go into the state of an economy. Journalists tend to overstate the link between the White House and the economy. Right now, I can't say that because the most important challenges we face, war in Iran, the trade war, the central bank independence, very, very large fiscal deficits, all of these are coming from inside the House. So this is the first time in my lifetime that most of our economic challenges are challenges that we created.
Got to ask you about this week, the U.S. debt surpassing the size of the economy. It has not happened since World War II. And you look at the national debt clock, it is now more than $39 trillion. Look, we all know this is bad, but what are the implications for the country's economic outlook?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways to scare people about the debt. And I just want to take a step back and say sometimes borrowing money is a good idea. For instance, I tell my students when they borrow money to invest in their futures and come and learn economics at the University of Michigan, that will pay off in a successful future career. That's a good form of debt. But if you borrow money to spend it on beer on the weekends, then you're going to find yourself without a degree, with a really big hangover and a terrible credit card bill. And the question right now is, which of those are we doing? I tend to think of spending on the military as being the sort of thing that leads to a hangover. We have very large tax cuts to the rich that are driving a large part of this as well. So the judgment is one for the viewers. The question is this debt that we think will help pay itself off in the future? I have my doubts.
Okay. I'm sure your students, though, are very glad to be in your classes. Justin Wolfers, we're glad to have you as well. Thank you.